everybody! Today I'm going to read you a story called May Gibble's Tales from the Campfire. Now, it's illustrated by May Gibbles and it's the author too. Now, I want to tell you something about May Gibbles. Now, May Gibbles has traveled from the top of the world to the bottom of the world. Now, it's very interesting, but it's still very far, and I know. And look at the back. I'm not going to read you this part because it's about the story, but I am going to read you this part. Join Snuggerpot and Cuddlepie in the Australian bush as they experiment a human. Go to a picture show and discover a cave. Gather around the campfire and get ready for stories of friendship and adventure with May Gibbles' classic characters. Now, it's very good because you will like this book of May Gibbles, and I think you'll love it. Now, let's start the book. This is the first page. There's nothing wrong on it, but don't worry about this part. Just look at these pictures. These two are the most classic characters, so they're the main ones. And that's the story. The mystery of the humans. I'm looking forward to exploring today, says Snuggerpot as he stretched out by the campfire. I don't think we have ever been so far from our trees. You don't think we'll see a monster human, do you? Papa yawned. He hadn't slept a wink last night. Every little noise had kept him awake. Snuggerpot shrugged. You mustn't believe everything the paper says. I certainly don't. But Cuddlepie was worried. The Bush Telegraph had recently reported a sighting of a monster human in the bush, and it could still be out there. Besides, it was Mrs. Snake who saw the human. You can't trust a word she says. Snuggerpot handed Cuddlepie a streaming mug of Billy tea. After breakfast, they set off into the bush. Snuggerpot chatted merrily, while Cuddlepie stared at every snapping twig and falling leaf. Shh, Cuddlepie suddenly said. Can you hear that? Snuggerpot laughed. Cuddlepie, it's just the wind in the trees. No, it's someone crying, Cuddlepie insisted. Rounding the bend in the track, they came across some bright orange netting and someone was trapped inside it. They crept closer. It's Mrs. Fantle, Cuddlepie gasped. Help! Oh, please help, she cried, flapping her wings uselessly. The little bird was tangled in heavy netting. Don't worry, we'll have you out quick, Sticks, Snuggerpot said. Just try and stay still. The nuts pulled at the knitting with all their might. But then Mrs. Fennel stared, shrieking, "Ow, my wing! Don't pull so!" As the two nuts worked to free Mrs. Fennel, there came a thud, thud, thud. Sticks crackled and leaves crunched. Cuddlepie looked over his shoulder and froze. Woof! A large black beast with huge jaws and massive paws appeared, barking and sniffing along the ground. An enormous figure who was also coming towards them. It was so tall, Cuddlepie could hardly see its face. "The monster human," Cuddlepie whispered as he fainted to the ground. Mrs. Fennel began to flapping frantically. "Get me out! Get me out!" she squawked. The monster human and the black beast were nearly upon them. Dumpert dragged Cuddlepie behind a tree and peered out. Dumpert whispered to Mrs. Fennel. "Stay still." The black beast sniffed at Mrs. Fennel, dropping worms all over her. Mrs. Fennel shrieked and tried to bury herself further in the knitting. Dumpert could only watch in horror as the monster human reached out with its long arms and picked up Mrs. Fennel. It lifted her up into the air and looked closely at the netting. Mrs. Fennel gasped, Snugglepot, but the monster human was gently listening to Mrs. Fennel, freeing her from the net and checking her wings for any injury. Softly up on a nearby branch, Clover found Shadow. "This rubbish has no place in the bush," said the human as he placed the netting in a hissing bag. He carried over his shoulder, whistling. He called the black beast, and they both strolled away along the track. The next page, there's no writing. It's just this. When the monster human and his black beast were safely out of sight, Dumpert called out, "Mrs. Fennel, are you all right?" Mrs. Fennel fluttered down to the two nuts. "Yes, I'm fine, thank you." Cuddlepie stared and rubbed his eyes. "Monsters," he shouted. "Everything is gummy," Dumpert soothed. "I saw a human." Cuddlepie has whined. "So it was a human, and I fainted. What did it look like?" "It looked like a giant nut, and it had eyes like ours," said Dumpert. "The human saved me," Mrs. Fennel laughed. "Wait till we get back and tell everyone." Snugglepot and Mrs. Fennel told all the bush creatures who would listen about their exciting encounter with a human. "We don't need to worry. Humans aren't scary at all. They can be kind and gentle. I can't believe I missed it," Cuddlepie laughed as he hugged his friend. Now here's it. It's very, very lovely. It said, Miss Fanta was rescued by a human. And that's a picture of a human. They don't draw humans very well, see. Let's change the page. Yes. So it isn't too long now because there isn't too much pages. Yeah, but it's still a bit long, and I'm sorry, but makeup stories are long, and you have to wait. The Great Bulldog Kappa. Get your fresh honey cakes, cheap coals day and night. Beautiful portraits while you wait. Snugglepot and Cuddlepie were visiting Big City. Snugglepot was wearing his new suit and had just brought a new walking stick. Cuddlepie had a new hat. They both looked very smart. Cuddlepie suddenly tugged on Snugglepot's arm. Who is that? A beautiful blossom was walking her bulldog ant. Or rather, the blossom was having trouble the bulldog ant was walking her. The ant pulled at the leash and the blossom was having trouble holding on. It's Lily Pilly, the actress, said Snugglepot. Her father owns theatre here in the big city. She had a splendid bulldog, said Cuddlepie. Suddenly, the bulldog ant jumped up and knocked over a basket of eggs. In a surprise, Lily Pilly let go of the lead. The shopkeeper shouted angrily. She needed help, Snugglepot says. Come on. Cuddlepie lunged after him. No, he said sternly. The ant was so startled that he had stopped in his tracks. Cuddlepie grabbed the lead and pulled the ant safely out of the way. The nuts instructed themselves to the actors. Lily Pilly was extremely grateful. We only just got Rocky, you see, and he hasn't been trained yet. She explained. Please, would you help me take him home? Cuddlepie was still busy keeping Rocky under control, so Snugglepot said yes for both of them. Lily lived with her father, Mr. Pilly. There was a large, once beautiful garden for Rocky to run around in, but it was now covered in holes. I see Rocky likes sticking, Snugglepot laughed. Yes, I wish he wasn't so naughty, Lily Pilly sighed. At that moment, Rocky jerked the lead out of Cuddlepie's hand so strongly that Cuddlepie stumbled and his hat fell off. Rocky did a mad dash around the garden, then jumped up on Stumpot, begging him to play. Stumpot dropped his walking stick in surprise. "Rocky, naughty boy," scolded Lily-Pilly. Snowball laughed until he heard a loud tearing noise. His new suit was ruined. "I'm so sorry," Lily-Pilly said sweetly. "Come on, Rocky boy," said Cuddlepie, trying to trap the bulldog, and let's play fetch. He grabbed a stick and threw it. The delightful young bulldog raced after it and brought it right back, throwing on it happily all the while. "Boy, look, he can fetch." He held up the stick for Lippy and Stumpot to see. Stumpot stared hard. The stick looked familiar. Stump and bump. Me, isn't that? Cuddlepie looked at the chewed wood more closely. "Your new walking stick," he finished up coolly, and started to cry. Lippy felt even more worse than before. Cuddlepie put his arm around his friend. "It was nice to meet you, Lippy, but you have to go now," Cuddlepie said. He looked around for his new cap. Rocky helpfully brought it to him, then crunched it into a pile of little pieces. "Can I still soon?" boomed Mr. Pilly. "Yes, I'm afraid Rocky has been very naughty," said Pilly, sadly staring at the beginning. She told her father about all the trouble Rocky had caused that day. "And now he's ruined my new suit," chewed my walking stick, and crunched up Cuddlepie's cap. Stumpot added. Mr. Pilly put his hand over his tummy and talked. "Ho, ho, ho. He has he? That's the funniest thing I've heard in a while." Mr. Pilly was very kind. He promised to replace Stumpot and Cuddlepie's clothes. Then his face lit up. "You know, you have just given me a wonderful idea for a new show about a naughty bulldog, and please accept these tickets and come to Lippy Picture Palace tonight." Cuddlepie stopped crying. "Really, I've never been to the pictures before," he said. "Lily is in a tonight projection," Mr. Pilly told them. He turned and gave the bulldog hand and belly rub. "Now, Rocky, you young sailor, it's off to Olympian school." Stumpot and Cuddlepie went to pictures and had a wonderful time, quite forgetting their ruined clothes. And as for Rocky, he did so well at school that he became a model student. What's more, he never chewed up anyone's clothes ever again. This page. So here it said Lippy Pictures Palace. The River Adventure. "Just think soon we'll be starting," said Cuddlepie dreamily, "with cool breezes and blue skies." Stumpot smiled. The two friends were at a busy dock standing among stones of bush Many boats bubbled merrily on the water. Mr. Lizard had come with Snugglebot and Cuddlepie to the dock because he wanted to get a glimpse of the plane ship his friends would be sailing on. "Which one is this thing?" asked Snugglebot. There was a loud bawl. Suddenly, the biggest ship they had ever seen slowly pulled up to a nearby wharf. It had 2 large sails and a second cabin with many round portholes. "By gum, that's the sang all right," shouted Cuddlepie. "Best get on board. Quick, Sticks," said Mr. Lizard. "Have fun, you two." "Bye, Mr. Lizard." Talking the tickets, the excited nuts ran up the gangplank as fast as they could. The ship was marvelous, and the 2 friends couldn't wait to get going. "Ho, ho, ho! Welcome aboard!" boomed a loud voice. "The name's Captain Bushnut." Captain Bushnut was a huge bansicker with a man with an impressive hat. He strode along the passengers and stopped in front of the 2 nuts. "Ahoy! Who be this?" he roared, his black eyes twinkling. "I'm Snugglebot, and this is Cuddlepie, sir," said Snugglebot bravely. "I'm looking for a couple of classmates. Will you help me?" "Of course," Snugglebot said. Captain Bushnut led the 2 friends right up on the bridge where the ship's wheel sat. They could see all the way up the river. "Now, mates, steer aboard your helm and keep her steady," instructed the captain. "He means turn the wheel right," Cuddlepie whispered to Snugglebot. Eager to impress, Snugglebot turned the wheel with all his might. The ship lurched aside. "By gum, that's too far," said the captain. He grabbed the wheel and tried to turn it back, but he couldn't get control. "Give us a hand, lads," he cried. Snugglebot and Cuddlepie both grabbed the wheel and tried to turn it to the left, but it was too late. The ship was heading straight for the bank. "Right, brace yourselves," the captain shouted, and the ship screeched and shouted to a halt. Captain Bushnut went to inspect the damage. The ship fell on the beach. He announced that they would all have to camp on bank until another ship would come by to pick them up. The next day, Snugglebot felt like it was his fault, so he apologized to his captain. But Captain Bushnut didn't seem to bother. "No worries, lad. It's not your fault. I should have steered myself. They don't call the sang for nothing," said Captain Bushnut. Called on Snugglebot, Cuddlepie very faintly. They could hear someone calling out to them. Snugglebot pointed at the riverbank. "Look," he said to Cuddlepie, "it's Flag Blossom." And they got off the ship and went to meet her different. Flag Blossom was delighted to see them. "Come and play," she said. she said. Blossom was delighted to see them. Come and play. The frog family are teaching me to dive. Mr. Frog and his children leaped around the factory when they this page when they saw Stonepot and Cuddlepie. They enjoyed company more than anything. The diving pool perfectly round and very deep. Mr. Frog has showed the three friends how to hold their breath and swim down under the still water. Later, when they were all dying with confidence, Mr. Frog took them to an underwater tunnel. One by one, they all followed him down through the passage and popped their heads out into an underwater cave. Sunlight glittered down from an opening above, making the wet cave walls shimmer. Treetop breathed the nuts. After they finished exploring, Mr. Frog and his children jumped out through the opening and let down a ladder. Cuddlepie, Stonepot, and Rag Blossom climbed up to see a campfire that cracked infinitely, and somebody very familiar was waiting there for them. Mr. Lizard, cried Stonepot and Cuddlepie. I thought you might be hungry, he smiled, offering hot butter, damper, and billy tea. As the sun began to set, everyone sat around the campfire, munching and slurping. Tell us a story, Mr. Lizard, begged Cuddlepie. Everyone loves Mr. Lizard's stories. Mr. Lizard thought for a moment. Well, I do know one story. A candid silence fell over the group. It all started when Stonepot and Cuddlepie saw a real human. And this page, and that's the end of the story. Oh, and hope you like the story of May Gible's Tales from the Campfire. Bye.